about a year and a half ago, I finished a program out of University of Victoria, and fortunately, they shared this I thought was a really interesting concept, the asset-based community development tool. And so I'm really hoping my presentation might spark a little bit of interest for you guys as well. Now, this is the very first time I do anything without paper in front of me, so bear with me. I'm going to wing this one a bit. So a little bit of history of ABCD, and that's the acronym for this. It is a term that was coined by Kretzmann and McKnight out of the US. And I believe universities have been using this particular tool in developing countries for about 30 years or so. And it is used, in fact, to help communities with economic development. In essence, what is the approach of asset-based community development? Well, how do you see the glass? Is it half empty or half full to you? Asset-based helps you see the glass of your community as half full. Okay, a little comparison. So more years than I care to count anymore. My first degree was in social work, and we were trained in needs-based assessment. And of course, in those days, that was the thing to do. And in essence, what you do with needs-based is you go, in my particular case, you go into a family, you assess what their problems are, what their deficiencies are, and then you, of course, try to put in solutions, and the outcome should be, of course, well-being. So, nice little formula here. This is often expert-driven. Not that I ever saw myself as an expert, goodness gracious, but at any rate, the idea is look for the problem, find some possible solutions, and hopefully the result will be well-being. So the formula for asset-based is to have your community look at its assets and to then determine what the opportunities are from those assets. And this is a model where the community does the choosing, so it's by and for the community. Sorry, Michelle, this is probably not truly karmic law, but in essence, what the guiding principle behind this is the energy you put out is the energy you get back. Of course, we also know it as, what you sow, you shall reap, and what goes around comes around, as we often say. The focus, then, that we tend to get caught up in a needs-based formula is we assess the problems, we look for the solutions, and on we go in that particular cycle. With asset-based focus, you, of course, are listing your assets. You are looking for the solutions from those assets, or the opportunities, from those assets. And around we get to go in that loop instead. So, in essence, instead of asking what's wrong, we're going to ask what has worked in the past and how can we get a little bit more of that. Now, when I did this project at UVic, I was, of course, working with an Aboriginal community, my Métis community. In fact, a group of women. We had come up with a project that we ended up calling the BC Métis Women Healing and Community Development Project. At any rate, we wanted to put the asset-based tool that was developed by Kretzmann and McKnight into the 4 directions of the medicine wheel. So in essence, what you do is you have your community come together. They're going to, and I don't know if you guys can see this very well, but you take a look at your human resources, you make a list of those human resources. So who are the people in your neighborhood? What skills and gifts do they bring? Secondly, you would look at the associations and institutions of your community, make a list of those, determine what they have to offer, what they bring to the table. Your natural and physical resources. Now, when I was putting this together, I thought, my gosh, Golden, we certainly know what our natural resources are. We have our beautiful mountains and historic rivers and what have you. But one of the things our Aboriginal community came up with, and I hope this is okay, Kelly, but golden was traditionally, pre-settler contact and even after that, a trade route. So what do we want to do with that knowledge? And then you bring it all together, and you can use a little tool to assess your economy. And I know that our golden business people certainly know this well, maybe not as the leaky bucket tool, but they certainly know that process really well. What are your resources, your financial resources coming into your community? What are the ones that are leaking out? And we certainly know that story quite well here in Golden. But what can we do? So when you're bringing your community together, you ask, you take a look at all of these lists that you've made, and then you come up with the opportunities from those assets. And I can remember first studying this, and I kept going back to solutions, and because I was needs-based trained. But a light bulb went off for me when one of my professors said, no, Denise, what asset-based is, you make a list of your assets and you look for the opportunities from those assets rather than always going back to your problems and solutions. Now, I really am not fond of presenters who read from the screen, but like Christina, I found this quote from Carl Jung. I really feel that I need to read his words about this because I certainly can't say it any better. So Carl Jung says, and he was coined the father of psychology, but he says, all the greatest and most important problems of life are fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, only outgrown. This outgrowing proves, on further investigation, to require a new level of consciousness. Some higher or wider interest appeared on the horizon, and through this broadening of outlook, the insoluble problem lost its urgency. It was not solved logically in its own terms, but faded when confronted with a new and stronger life urge. So with that, I leave you. Hopefully this has spurred a little bit of interest to everyone. And that's it for today. Thanks.